In the spring of 2013, it's an epically hot day in Sabari, Afghanistan, close to the Pakistan border. But for then Staff Sergeant Michael Villahermosa, the day was about to get hotter. He was about to discover that there's a bomb that could explode at any minute. This was his first deployment as an EOD, or Explosive Ordnance Disposal, team leader. He had been deployed 2 years earlier, but had only assisted with inspections.
So the EOD team leader is the guy, if you've watched the Hurt Locker, it's the person who puts on the bomb suit, actually goes downrange and does the actual rendering safe or the disarming of the device. So I've been in country for maybe a week, right? In a pretty hot area, right? So this place is called Sabari, Afghanistan. And the team leader I'm working with, I'm expecting to watch him go down range and do what he's going to do. And he turns to me and he goes, "Hey, you got it?"
Mike hadn't put on the full suit in the field before, so he was a little nervous. But he couldn't let the others see that.
This is a career field that is full of a lot of bravado. And I looked at him and I'm like, "Yeah, man, I got it. Whatever. All right, I got it."
So Mike put on the suit and slowly made his way toward the disturbance in the dirt.
It's hot. I'm dying. It's like 113 degrees outside, right? I'm in a bomb suit. I'm just dumping sweat. And I'm working on this device. And it just feels surreal. In training, we would say something like, "Instructor, I'm moving to disposal." And the instructor would say something like, "All right, it's gone," right? And I remember my brain saying, "All right, now I got to blow this up." And that's when it clicked, right? I really have to blow this up. Like, this isn't just a training event. Like, I actually have to put a counter charge on this and dispose of this thing by detonation.
EOD soldiers are trained not to get things right, but rather to make sure they don't get it wrong. So his years of training allowed Sergeant Villahermosa to quickly conclude he needed to move the bomb and set it off with a countercharge.
We had rendered it safe and we pulled it off route. And then the next thing you do is you get air clearance, while everyone's pulling security, and you talk to the infantry guys on the radio and you say, "Hey, button up the hatches, pop down, we're going to blow this thing up." And it was about a 55-pound, yellow jug in the ground. So we dispose of that, with a couple blocks of C4. That was a really cool moment, right? Because it was the first time that I'd ever worked on a device for real, put my hands on something, and it didn't feel real the entire time I was working on it.
Captain Michael Villahermosa often attributes his career success to the level of training he's received over the years. However, the other key factor for him is the strong bond between EOD soldiers, to the point where they consider themselves part of a large family. And now, after 15 plus years of work in the field, he's taken on a larger role in that family as an instructor for the next generation of EOD soldiers. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with Captain Villahermosa to discuss the life of an EOD soldier, how he accidentally discovered a second track as an Army social media influencer under the name EOD Happy Captain, and how the gift of hot honey made everyone at the base smile one day. I'm Carrie Varuhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Amazon's low Earth orbit satellite network is driving an information advantage across domains for national security missions. Amazon, advancing the space domain.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant General Retired Leslie C. Smith, and welcome back to your next episode of Army Matters.
You know who else is here?
And let me get to that in a second with my best friend, my good buddy,
Sergeant in the Army retired Dan Daly. Les, I'm back.
Daniel A. Yeah.
I'm back.
Where you been, brother?
I went fishing.
You went fishing and didn't take the rest of us with you. What'd you catch?
Sockeye
salmon.
Sockeye salmon. Mm-hmm.
And so, what's the most fun, catching them or cleaning them?
Catching them, obviously.
Of course.
I enjoy filleting. I do.
You like filleting?
Yeah, I do all the filleting along with my buddy. And I enjoy that. I do.
I can't wait to get my hands on some of that sockeye salmon straight from Alaska.
Straight from Alaska.
So now that you're back in the studio, finally, I have a question for you. Dan, you've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you've worked with EOD soldiers before.
Absolutely.
So have you ever put on a bomb suit? What'd you think of it?
Yeah. So several times, but when I was at EOD school,
Okay.
of course, when you're the Sergeant of the Army and you go visit places, like if you go visit the MPs,
Yeah.
you get to put on the suit and get the dog attacks
Yes,
you.
of
You
course.
know, when you if you got to get tased,
Of
just
course.
because they got to show you how those things work.
Right.
And then they made me disassemble and assemble a bunch of weapons while I was in the EOD suit.
Yeah.
And I didn't do very well.
You didn't
at
do
it.
well?
No, and it was hot.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it on a training range out in the field one day, and it was a hot day. So you remember what the pan disruptor is?
No.
That's the little articulate thing that they would attach different pieces and parts to it to blow things up.
Yeah.
They made me carry one of those about 400 meters
Was it
with
heavy?
the EOD suit.
Yeah. I would feel for those soldiers in Iraq all the time.
Yeah.
I remember our EOD guys having to take breaks. I mean,
Yeah.
when they're disarming stuff, because it'd be 120 degrees out and they got this suit on
Yeah.
and they're up there trying to work and they're sweating and
Yeah.
dangerous job.
Yeah, very. So clearly we were not cut out to be EOD soldiers.
No, I'm an infantry soldier. Infantry soldiers, the only thing you should issue an infantry soldier is a chem light. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because that's the only thing you have to break to make it work.
Dun-dun-dun.
Dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, okay. Blaze, do you have any idea what hot honey is? We know you're a beekeeper and everything, and maybe you're an expert in it. Do you know what hot honey is, brother?
I mean, in what context?
Keep it legal.
I know,
it legal.
I'm trying
This is a
to.
family show.
I'm trying to give me a category of hot,
Hot honey.
hot honey.
Just say you don't know. Just say you don't
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not going to tell you what it is either because it's going to come out in the podcast today. But I stumped Dan Daly on the question. Yes.
Well, I could have answered.
No,
it.
well-
I just don't know if it would have been, PG.
Okay, well, it has to be PG.
I mean, if
No, we're not talking about honey pots. No, we're not talking about that.
I didn't say a word.
Yeah, you
did
would
I?
get ready to. I see your face.
Well,
So, the reason why we're talking about EOD and hot honey and those type of things, because today's guest has been an EOD soldier for 17 years.
wow.
And he's commanding down at the EOD school, one of the companies down in Florida, down in Eglin. You've been there before, haven't you?
I've been there.
And guess what else? He's a
What?
social media superstar.
Well, I'm sorry I missed it, but I'm not sorry I got to go fishing though.
Yeah. Hey.
Well, let's listen to your interview with EOD Happy Captain Michael Villahermosa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant General Retired Leslie C. Smith. And today, we have one of my heroes, one of my no kidding guys who are making the mission happen for our Army. So, Michael, welcome to Army Matters.
Thank you for having me.
So help us out a little bit. How will you pronounce your last name, sir?
Villahermosa.
Villahermosa.
Yes, sir.
Like mimosa, but hermosa.
Like a vanilla mimosa.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, Mike, let's start off by talking about your family. You're an EOD officer, which means you know how to think on your feet. But I understand you also have two brothers who served and had significant careers. So, help me out here. Who's the smartest of the three of you?
Look, I'm the best looking, and I can say that because it's a radio show. They can't see me.
Okay. My note says your oldest brother is an Army brain surgeon. So why aren't we talking to him? Why isn't he on the show?
That's right. He's just really busy. Typical brain surgeon.
And what about your other brother? Is he still serving?
No, he's out. He's been out for a while. He only did about 2 to 3 years. He does tech writing in Boston. He's a smart one. They're all smart. I'm just the guy who like stuck around for a long time.
But you're an explosive ordnance disposal officer.
Well, I didn't say I'm dumb. I just said I'm least smart of the three.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so now you're an Army brat. Tell us about your family who served before. You mentioned that before. And what lessons did they teach you growing up?
You know, I come from a long line. I mean, my grandfather was he was in the Korean War, 65th Infantry Regiment, right? He was also in Vietnam. My dad served, my uncle served. So there's a history of service. You know, just the values you get, I think, of being an Army brat, of getting to move around the world, move around the country, get to meet different people, different upbringings, really get a really just good feel of what it means to be an American. And the best part is you don't realize it's happening, right? As a kid, you think this is just normal. It's not till you're an adult that you realize that it really instilled me with a great sense of pride, a great sense of values, just a great respect for this country and the people that have served doing it. My dad, I did not realize this at the time, right? But my dad had to extend for me to graduate high school. But he had to pay the piper, right? In order for him to stay on station for an extra year, he had to go deploy for that year. So he was gone my entire senior year. It wasn't until I was in the Army that I realized that he had done that so that I could stay and graduate high school with my friends.
So, Mike, is it true that you originally wanted to be in Special Forces?
So I was in a pipeline to be a Special Forces candidate. They had a 1-month preparatory course for people that were coming into the Army. And it was a month of It was probably some of the best training I've received in the Army. It was a month of just rucking and running and learning basic soldier skills, how to pack a ruck, how to put your socks on properly so you don't get blisters. I mean, just like super, super basic things that are core competency of being a soldier. And then I went to selection, and I didn't get selected, and it was a gut check. It was probably the first real gut check I had in my life, right? The first time I had really wanted something, and it wasn't there. It wasn't in the cards for me. And so I came back, and one of the cadre took me aside, and he said, "Hey, do you want to go EOD?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." And he said, "Well, you have all these aptitude scores. So your choices are you can either go right down the road, 82nd Airborne, be infantry," which sounded great. He's like, "Or you can try this EOD thing out." And I said, "I'll try the EOD thing out because I want to be in a small unit environment. That's why I wanted to do Special Forces originally. Right? So I wanted to work with a small group of people." And he sold it.
All right, cool. So we're going to jump into this, but in the teaser we talked about your first bomb inspection and defusion you had back in 2011. How many operations do you think you've been involved in over the years?
That's a hard question to answer. So, I think there's a misconception from movies like The Hurt Locker. There's that scene where that full-bird colonel comes and talks to him. He's like, how many devices have you worked on? I forget what the number is, right? And he's like, "You're a wild man." And that's not quite how it works in real life because it's a team event, right? It's not an individual event. I don't have an answer for you. I mean, I think over the course of my career, I have probably worked on between 250 and 300 IEDs, right? That is not to say that I disarmed 300 IEDs, right? Like there's several times where I just sat in the truck and I was there and I was building up tools or I was building up a charge and someone else was doing the super dangerous stuff, right? But I've done that stuff as well. It's a team sport.
Describe for our listeners what happens in EOD school.
Well, EOD school is awesome, right? So it is one of the only schools within the Department of Defense where it's joint service. You are being taught by Marines and airmen and sailors and soldiers. It's got an incredibly high attrition rate, sitting at almost 40%, right? And you learn everything. They expect you to know nothing when you get there. And so you start out and you learn how to do basic demolitions, how to use explosives, what explosives are and how you treat them, properly and safely. And we do that by running them just ragged on this team leader certification process where you fail. you fail a lot. You fail a lot in training, and you fail a lot in training, right? So that you cannot get it wrong when it's real. We want the training to be realistic and dynamic. And, we want our soldiers to go down range. And when it's time to do it for real, they say, wow, that was actually pretty easy, right? That's the goal.
Okay. So Mike, don't you have to pass the bomb suit test first before you start EOD school?
Yeah, the bomb suit. Yeah, you got to do a bomb suit assessment. So the bomb suit's heavy. Right, the bomb suit is heavy. It's it's about 80 pounds. Right, before you put the helmet on.
80 pounds.
80 pounds
before you put the helmet on.
Before you put the helmet on. So this suit has a plate that goes from your neck past your groin. So that's one plate, and you have plates that are over your thighs, right, and all the protections in the front. So it's a very heavy suit, right? You don't have a whole lot of mobility in it, and then you put this helmet on, and the helmet is padded. It's got microphones in it so you can hear what's going on outside. They don't work particularly well. You got some lights on the front of it. But, the reason we do the bomb suit assessment is to see, are you claustrophobic? Is this a job you can do? And it's the reason we do the test first, right? Because the last thing you want to do is find out halfway through EOD school that you're claustrophobic and this isn't for you. But we make people, carry 155 rounds and flip over from their back to their bellies and put them through a physical challenge to make sure that you can actually maneuver in this thing.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so it's been said EOD techs are a close-knit bunch, like a family. Tell us why that is and give us an example.
Oh, man. This community is small. The EOD community across all branches, Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, you're looking at about 3,000 people. This is a very, very small community. And so it is a family. I get to see my soldiers grow up. I have a soldier in my command right now who I knew when they were a young private. Right now they're a stellar NCO. And so we take a lot of time to make sure that, one, we understand who our soldiers are as people, right? We get to watch them grow up, have families, have kids, I know their names. It's great, right? It is a very small community. And that stems from the fact that when we deploy, in 3-person teams, right? So, 2010, 11, it's me as a private, almost a specialist, a sergeant and a staff sergeant, and we're supporting an infantry company, just the three of us, right? Just the three of us. In 2013, I'm the team leader now, right? And I have an E4 and an E5 that I'm directly in charge of. And so it's three of you guys just out there in the middle of the nowhere doing EOD work, and you're trusted to do that work, right? That's imperative to the mission. So we put a lot of responsibility on people, and as a result, we really grow some deep family ties.
So on Army Matters, we always talk about the importance of mistakes and learning from them. What would you say is the biggest mistake that you made of your career as an EOD soldier?
My biggest failure in the Army, I would have to say it's losing contact with people, right? It's losing touch with soldiers that you served with, that were in your command. I had a really good friend when I worked down here at Eglin as an NCO who wound up, committing suicide. And we were good friends, right? We just lost touch. He was an infantry guy who went EOD, who then became, an aviation warrant. So he's an Apache pilot. And he just had a really bad deployment in 2019. And I had talked to him a couple times. We'd lost touch. And, then you get that phone call at 2 a.m, and it was someone I hadn't talked to, right, in years. So when you get a phone call at 2 a.m. from someone you haven't talked to in years, you know it's going to be a bad conversation. And man, if this job is busy, right, we lose contact with people. I'm not sure it would have changed anything, but maybe just another conversation, maybe that could have changed the course of things.
Yeah, that's a very good story. This weekend I ran into one of my nephews who I'd never met before, and he talked about losing some of his buddies. And, the fact, I think, of you communicating that on this net is important. We've talked about this before, that we are human, right? And how we show our humanity as leaders is more important than ever before.
Yeah. In the same vein, you want to talk about probably the proudest moment, in my career. And it's ebbed and it's flowed, right? It's ebbed and it's flowed over time. In the beginning, I was super proud that I became an EOD technician. Or before that, I was super proud that I graduated basic training. And then I was proud that I became an EOD tech. I was proud that I became a team leader. I was proud that I deployed, proud I became an officer. Now I'm insanely proud when a soldier asks me to re-enlist them, right? Or I get to give out an award. That makes me incredibly proud. But I will tell you, probably one of the proudest moments I've had personally is this EOD community is incredibly small. And we have a suicide prevention group called After the Long Walk. So it's a Facebook group. It's run by EOD soldiers, by EOD technicians, for EOD technicians. And they do great work, right? Trying to prevent people from taking their lives. And I know the guy who created the group really well. And he called me one night and he goes, "Hey, this isn't a personal call. You have a problem. We have an EOD technician who we have a heat map, right? We have a map of shows where everyone lives. And the map shows that you're the closest person to him. Can you go talk to this person?" And so I drove up there and I grabbed this soldier and we talked for a while, right? Going through just a lot of life. And, I said, "Hey man, are you suicidal?" And he said, "No, I'm not." And I said, "Okay, well, I tell you what, I am not a medical professional. So how about you get in the car with me? We go to the hospital. You tell them you're not suicidal, right?" And so I put him in the car. We drove to the hospital, and he told them something else. He was admitted, right? That was an incredibly proud moment in my life because that guy's still here. He's still serving, right? His life's going great now. Our life's going great now. But that moment, I would probably say, is probably one of the proudest of my career.
Join AUSA, the Army's premier professional association and host of the largest land power exposition in the United States. AUSA is open to everyone, including all ranks and components. So whether you have a relationship with the U.S. Army or simply want to honor those who serve, you can learn more online at ausa.org/join.
Amazon is serving the needs of national security with a low Earth orbit satellite network, keeping critical missions connected across domains. Amazon, advancing the space domain.
Welcome back, everyone, to Army Matters. Now, we're going to talk about your growing profile on social media, but before that, I have one final EOD soldier question. Can you tell our listeners about how EOD soldiers are involved in local communities across the country?
So I think a lot of people don't realize that, a lot of local municipalities don't have bomb squads, right? And so they utilize Army EOD, right?
Right.
We provide support to local law enforcement, not in a law enforcement capacity, right? So we're not law enforcement, agents or anything like that. But, if they find something, if they find a bomb or they find, an IED or an old grenade, right? They will call out local EOD techs from any branch, right? They will come and they will respond to that. We do that all the time. The Secret Service, almost every day, there's explosive ordnance disposal technicians that are out there supporting the local community. Secret Service, right? Anytime the president travels, the vice president travels, the first lady travels, there are EOD technicians that are there wearing plain clothes, suit and tie, right? That are there to support in case anything is found or to help find any type of items, right? We are constantly working.
Okay. So let's jump into social media. So over the last few years, you call yourself the Happy EOD Captain.
The EOD Happy Captain, yeah.
The Happy Captain, yeah. Can you tell us how that started?
Yeah, first off, I did not start social media. Like that was never the intent, was to have any type of following.
Okay.
So I was sitting at dinner with my buddy and we were talking about the barracks. I made a comment. I was like, if officers lived in the barracks, if we forced officers to live in the barracks for even the first part of their command time, I guarantee you, right? The washers would work, the dryers would work, the chow hall would be great. If you've ever been in a chow hall on Friday night after payday, right? It's not always the best selection of food, right? And if we forced officers to live there, even for a little bit, maybe the quality of life would go up for these soldiers. And I posted that on Twitter at the time, now X, and I went to sleep, right? I posted that to my 2 followers. And by the time I woke up in the morning, Army WTF moments had taken it. It was all over Instagram. There was photos of it. And it created a lot of conversation. And hopefully, out of that conversation. Some leaders went to the barracks, maybe not to live there, right? But to go like, hey, that's a good reminder. Maybe I should go check out the barracks today and see how my soldiers are living. And I was going by my name, Michael Villahermosa. Here's the deal is there's a lot of negativity on social media. So I try to keep a happier persona, right? The world has a lot of challenges. The military has a lot of challenges. It's not that I'm not addressing hard topics. It's that there's a way to address them, I believe, appropriately. And so there's a guy on Twitter, he's an anonymous account, but he goes by the Sad Major. That's his name. He's the Sad Major. He talks about being a staff officer. And he made a comment. He said, if I am the Sad Major, then this guy is the Happy Captain.
Nice.
And it just stuck. So I've been, I took that moniker from him and I've had it for the last couple of years. But, my intent is to tell my Army story and get people interested, in their Army.
So there's somebody on social media that calls themselves a Sad Major.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just leave that alone. So
it's funny. It's done in a humorous way. He talks about doing staff work and being a staff officer.
Yeah, trust me, we've all done it, right? So you use your social media platforms to find out about issues happening. Give us some of those examples that you've amplified and helped out over the last couple of years.
Well, I think, any type of barracks issues, DFAC issues, getting people interested in things like AER, Army Emergency Relief, right? Explaining basic concepts of these Army programs. We're at a time right now where less than 25% of the population is eligible for military service. How do we get those people interested? And I think part of that is done through showing that soldiers are regular, everyday people that put on the uniform, right, and go forward and they serve their nation, right? It's a higher calling, it's a higher purpose. But a lot of people just don't understand what their Army does for them. And I say their Army because that's who we work for, right? We work for the American people. The best thing that ever happens is when I have people that message me and say, hey, I'm interested in joining the Army and I'm interested in joining EOD. How do I do that? And walking them through the process. I had a soldier who joined the Army, right? He said, I'm interested in doing this. And then, I'm getting photos of him graduating basic training, graduating AIT. Like that is incredibly rewarding.
Nice. So I understand you were once gifted some hot honey because of your social media status. Help me out, bro. What is going on?
I wasn't gifted the hot honey.
Who was gifted the hot honey?
This goes back to the Sad Major, who's an anonymous account. So
nobody knows who this person is.
No one knows who this person is, right? Mm-hmm. So this Sad Major, he tweeted a hot honey company. He said, how many likes to get a year's supply of hot honey? And they messaged him a number and the message got amplified. It went semi-viral and he met the number, right? So he messages me offline. I have no idea who this man is or woman. I don't know who they are.
Right.
And he goes, look, I don't need this hot honey. He's like, you should give it to your soldiers. I said, okay.
Hot honey? What is hot honey?
Hot honey. It is honey that has has pepper in it. It's hot. It's good. It's good on pizza. It's good on.
Is it?
It's good. Ew, it's delicious. You should try it. Right.
Okay.
I'm obviously not endorsing or advertising for anybody.
Right to that. We don't know. We don't know what the name of the company is anyway.
That's right.
Hot honey.
That's right.
So he sent the hot honey to you?
Well, I don't know this guy, so I'm not going to give him my personal address. Right. He's an anonymous account, so I give him the unit address because if he's serious about it, he can. If it's for the soldiers, he can send it to the unit. And so, sure enough, he sends this hot honey to the unit, but he doesn't put his name on it. It's addressed to the Sad Major. And so there's this private walking around the hallways with this big box of hot honey, and he's walking up to all the majors, and he's going, "Are you a Sad Major?" And you can see them hang their heads. They're like, "Yeah, I'm a Sad Major." And I'm like, yeah, it's not for you. It's for me. Bring that over here, right? And so, we gave out bottles of hot honey to the soldiers.
You know what? Here's what we got to do. We got to facilitate a link up between the happy EOD captain and the Sad Major on the podcast. Yeah, I think so. That would be like a knockdown, drag out, sad, happy versus sad. I don't know. That's a pretty weird story, Mike.
It was a funny time in the building, right? Because this young private, he's going through school, right? So he's got no idea. He's like, are you a Sad Major? And of course, they all are, right?
Okay. How many followers do you have on Instagram?
I have a small account. I have about 34,000, right? That's small in the grand scheme of things, but it's a very active following.
Yeah. What about X?
Oh, that's the one I'm talking about. I spend a lot of time on X, posting my stories, but I have a pretty decent following on there, right? A lot of interaction.
Okay, before we go, I understand. On that phone right there that I'm looking at, you have a picture of my absent co-host, SMA Dan Daly. When and where is that photo from?
It's got to be 2018 at a Starbucks.
At a Starbucks. Was he in uniform or was he? What?
Yeah, so I was in the basic officer course. I went to Starbucks on a Sunday morning. It's
Nice.
like 7 a.m. at Fort Lee.
Okay.
I opened the door and there's a guy in uniform there, and I'm like, "Who's this guy on a Sunday in uniform?" I look at his rank. I had never seen.
You had never seen the SMA.
I'd never seen the rank before, so I'm staring at his chest, and I look up at him, and I looked at him. I said, "You're the Sergeant Major of the Army." He said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "You want to get a photo?" So it was him and Sergeant Major of the Army retired Preston. We took a photo together.
Did he say, "Do you want to get a photo"? Did he say that for real?
No, I said that to him.
Okay,
I said, no one's going to believe that at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, I met the Sergeant Major of the Army. So I need to get a photo for
You
me
need to
for
get a
proof.
photo. Okay. So is this something that you should have done different to prepare for that encounter?
Yeah, I'm looking. I mean, it's a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
It's the weekend. I haven't shaved for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I go back to Bolick and I'm showing all the people there. Like, look, I met the Sergeant Major of the Army. And they're like, "You didn't shave before you met the Sergeant Major of the Army?" And I said, to be fair, this was not a scheduled meeting at a Starbucks, right? Like, I bumped into the man.
Okay. So, Captain Michael Villahermosa, thanks so much for joining us here on Army Matters, and we really appreciate what you're doing. I think we need to come down to Eglin and do an on-site podcast, there at the EOD school, and bring some of those troopers in to see, especially after they graduate. They probably won't be focused until they graduate, especially after they graduate, what they think. What do you think about that?
I'd love to have you guys down here. Yeah, let's work it out. Sir, thank you so much for having me on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you, sir.
In the CJADC2 era, cross-domain connectivity is everything. That's why Amazon is creating a low Earth orbit satellite network designed to meet the needs of national security. Amazon, advancing the space domain. Mark your calendars. On September 19th, Central Michigan University proudly presents the 5th Annual General and Flag Officer Leadership Symposium, kicking off at 2 p.m. on CMU's main campus in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. The symposium is free and open to the public, honoring CMU's distinguished alumni who have served and continue to serve in our nation's military. Active and retired senior military leaders will be on campus engaging in dialogue, professional networking, and the exchange of ideas that shape the future of American leadership. Want to learn more? Check out the link in the show notes. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. AUSA's Army Matters podcast is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army Connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General retired Les Smith and SMA retired Dan Daly, and anchor hosted by Carrie Viral-Hakis. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the associate producer and supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Viral-Hakis and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to the Army Matters podcast wherever you find your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Wreaths Across America Radio, on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the iHeart Radio app, the Audacy app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Wreath. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. I'm LaSharon Duncan, hoping you have a great Army Day. Hua.